I reminded myself to be a bit skeptical, since this looked like a pretty shady cartridge, and there was no guarantee it would work. However, the optimist inside me interjected that maybe it was some kind of beta or pirated version of the game. That was all I needed to be back on cloud 9. I thanked the man, who smiled and wished me well, saying goodbye then, which at the time is what it sounded like to me. All the way in the car ride home, I had a nagging doubt that the man had said something else. My fears were confirmed when I booted up the game. To my surprise, it worked just fine. And there was one save file simply named Ben. The man was saying, "Goodbye, Ben." I felt bad for him. He was obviously a grandparent going senile. I, for some reason or another, reminded him out of curiosity. I looked at the save file. I could tell he was pretty far in the game. He had almost all of the masks, and 3/4 boss remains. I noticed he had used an owl statue to save his game. He was on day 3 by the Stone Tower Temple, with hardly an hour before the moon would crash. I remember thinking it was a shame he had come so close to beating the game, but never finished it. I made a new file named Link, out of tradition, and started the game. I was ready to relive my childhood. For such a shady looking cartridge, I was impressed at how smoothly it ran. Literally just like a retail copy of the game, save for a few minor hiccups here and there. Textures being where they should be. Random flashes of cutscenes at odd intervals. Nothing too bad. However, the only thing that was a little unnerving was that at times, the NPCs would call me Link and call me Ben at other times. I figured it was a bug, maybe a fluke, in the programming that caused our save files to get mixed up or something. It did kind of creep me out after a while, though. Around the time I beat Woodfall Temple, I regrettably erased the Ben file. I had intended to preserve the file out of respect for the game's original owner. It's not like I needed 2 files anyway. I hoped that would solve the problem. It did and didn't. Now NPCs wouldn't call me anything. Where my name should be in the dialogue was a blank space. My save file was still called Link, however. Frustrated and with homework to do, I put the game down for a day. I started playing the game again last night, getting the lens of truth and working my way toward completing a Snowhead Temple. Now, some of you more Majora's Mask players know about the 4th day glitch. For those who don't, you can Google it. The gist of it is that right as the clock is about to hit 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds on the final day, you talk to the astronomer and look through the telescope. If you exit the telescope just as the timer hits 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds, the countdown disappears, and you essentially have an endless amount of time to finish whatever you were doing. Deciding to do the glitch to try and finish a Snowhead Temple, I went in and tried. I happened to get it right on the first time, and the counter at the bottom disappeared. When I exited the telescope, I found myself in the Majora boss room at the end of the game. The trippy boxed-in area, staring at a skull kid hovering above me. There was no sound, just him floating in the air above me, and the background music, which was regular for the area, but still creepy. Immediately, my palms began to sweat. This was definitely not normal. Skull Kid never appeared here. I tried moving around the area, and no matter where I went, Skull Kid would always be facing me, not saying anything. Nothing would happen, and this kept up for around 60 seconds. I thought the game was bugged or something, but I was beginning to doubt that very much. I was about to reach for the reset button when text appeared on the screen. You're not sure why, but you apparently had a reservation. I instantly recognized that text. You get that message when you get the room key from Anju at the Stockpot Inn. Why was it playing here? I refused to entertain the nothing that it was almost as if the game was trying to communicate with me. I started to walk around the room again, testing if that was some sort of trigger that enabled me to interact with something before realizing how stupid I was. To even think that someone could reprogram the game like this was absurd. Sure enough, though, another message appeared on the screen 15 seconds later, and like the first one, it was already a pre-existing phrase. Go to the lair of the temple's boss. Yes or no? I paused for a second, contemplating what I should press and how the game would react. When I realized I couldn't select no, taking a deep breath, I pressed yes, and the screen faded to white with the words "Dawn of a New Day" and the subtext I beneath it. Where I was transported to filled me with the most intense sense of dread and impending fear I have ever experienced. The only way I can describe the way I felt here is having this feeling of inexplicable depression on a profound scale. I'm not normally a depressed person, but the way I felt here was a feeling I didn't even know existed. It was such a twisted, powerful presence that seemed to wash right over me. I appeared in some kind of weird Twilight Zone version of Clock Town. I walked out of the clock tower, as you normally do when you start from the first day, only to find all the inhabitants were gone. Usually with the fourth day glitch, you can still find the guards and the dog that runs around outside the tower, but they were all gone. What replaced them was the ominous feeling there was something out there in the same area as me, and it was watching me. I had 4 hearts at my name and the hero's bow, but at this point I wasn't even considering for my avatar. I felt that I personally was in some kind of danger. Perhaps the most chilling thing was the music. It was the Song of Healing, ripped straight from the game and played in reverse. The music would get louder, building up so you should expect something to pop out at you, but nothing ever did, and a constant loop began to wear on my mental state. Every now and then, I would hear the faint laugh of the happy mask salesman in the background. It was just quiet enough that I wasn't sure if I was just hearing things, but just loud enough to keep me determined to find him. I looked in all 4 zones of Clocktown only to find nothing and no one. Textures were missing too. West Clocktown had me walking on air, and the entire area felt broken, hopelessly broken. As the reverse song of healing repeated for what must have been the 50th time, I remember standing in the middle of South Clocktown, realizing that I had never felt so alone in a video game before. As I walked through the ghost town, I don't know whether it was the combination of the out-of-place textures, the atmosphere, and the haunting melody of the once peaceful and soothing song being butchered and distorted, but I was literally on the verge of tears, and I had no idea why. I hardly ever cry, but something had gripped me here and caused this powerful sense of depression that was both foreign and crippling. I tried leaving Clocktown, but every time I went through one of the exits, the screen would fade to black and I would enter another zone of Clocktown. I tried playing my ocarina. I wanted to escape. I did not want to be here. However, every time I played the Song of Time or Song of Soaring, it would only say, "Your notes echo far," but nothing happened. By this point, it was obvious the game didn't want me to leave, but I had no idea why it was keeping me here. I didn't want to go inside buildings. I felt I would be too vulnerable to whatever I was terrified of. I don't know why, but I came up with the idea that if I drowned myself at the laundry pool, I could spawn elsewhere and leave.